Welcome. I'm Cheryl Ford and this is my very first YouTube video and I'm so excited that you're here with me today to share it. You know, the world is a very troubled place these days, let's face it. And people are very troubled as well. Of course, there's always love and there's always beauty and there's always passion out there, but things can just seem really, really crazy sometimes. But you know, the interesting thing about that is it's not actually the world that's crazy, but it's us that's crazy. And that might sound like a funny thing to say, but let me explain a little bit about what I mean by that. Basically, the human mind is always projecting outward. And what most of us don't really know is that our thoughts are always creating and it's always projecting. And what seems to be going on out there in the world is really what's going on here in our own minds. And when we're not always aware of what our thought processes are, a lot of times we end up creating things that seem to cause trouble for us. And it's not just for us as individuals. There's also a collective consciousness out there as well that seems to be reflecting bigger problems out there in the world. So the trick here is we want to learn how to choose differently. And each and every moment, we really want to learn and train ourselves how to be aware of what our thought processes are and how to be aware of how in each and every moment we can be choosing differently. We can be choosing for love rather than fear. So that brings us around to what this YouTube video is all about, which is Awaken to Miracles. So what is a miracle? A miracle is basically a shift in perception. It's what A Course in Miracles calls sort of a shift in mentality, a shift from a fear mentality to a love reality. And anytime that shift takes place, we're going to see things very, very differently. And we're going to have a much greater sense of peace and love and acceptance of what's going on in our hearts and in our minds and in our world and in our very lives. But you know, it's not always an easy thing to do to change our whole thought system. Let's face it, we've been picking up our thoughts since we've been children. We've been collecting baggage from the past that we drag into our present, and we actually continue to project on into our future. So how do we stop collecting all of this baggage and dragging it along with us? Well, according to the spiritual text, A Course in Miracles, this process is called forgiveness. And it's not the normal everyday type of forgiveness that you have out in the world where you think somebody's done something wrong to you and then you're big enough to, let it go. This is a very radical type of a forgiveness where we simply overlook what seems to have gone wrong in our lives and we just let it go. It's just that easy. But it does take practice. And in fact, it can take quite a lot of practice because let's face it, we are very attached to our issues. We're very attached to what we think other people have done wrong to us. And we're very attached to our own judgments about ourselves and others. So that's what I would like to do here each week is talk about different ways that we can actually train our minds through meditation, through miracles affirmations, through discussions, through recognitions and insights, so that we can start to shift our entire experience into something so amazing. I have to tell you, my life over the last 14 years has changed dramatically. I used to live in California with my family. I was overworked, I was stressed, I was underpaid, I was stretched to the limits. I had it just as bad as anybody out there could possibly have it. But I was always constantly blaming my family, I was blaming my job, I was blaming the world for everything that had gone wrong. And I was a major control freak as well. I was always trying to control everything. And I thought that the more things that I controlled, the more that I would be able to achieve the things in my life that I wanted to achieve. It only turned out that I was just controlling everything into madness. Anyway, when I discovered A Course in Miracles, it was a life changer for me. It didn't start immediately. It was a very gradual process. I've been studying now for about 14 years, but my life has shifted dramatically. It's completely different now from how it was then.